Hi, everybody. My name is Will Sedlack, and I'm the Civic Engagement Manager for Maine Conservation Alliance. Maine Conservation Alliance protects Maine's environment and our democracies through education, collaboration, and advocacy. And collaboration is why we're here today. We are working with the League of Women Voters of Maine on protecting your right to vote this fall and making sure everybody has access to the polling place, whether that be through absentee ballots or through safe in-person voting. So I'm just so pleased to be joined by Evan Tess Murray. Evan works for the League of Women Voters, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Hi, thanks, Evan. Will. As Will said, my name is Evan. I'm with the League of Women Voters, where I am the Education and Engagement Projects Manager, which means that I oversee all of our work around making sure that voters have access to education about what it is that they're doing, how to vote, and what they're voting for. And then I also do a lot of work engaging voters, so helping get people out there talking to people. We usually do door canvases, a little harder under COVID. But just in general, our goal from a completely nonpartisan place is to make sure that as much as possible, everyone in Maine gets to vote. Everyone's voice is heard. So today we wanted to talk a little bit about absentee voting because, as you might have heard, this year is a little unusual. And we're all trying to figure out how to run an election during a pandemic in a way that's as safe as possible and still lets everyone vote and be counted in an election year that feels very important to a lot of people. Now, I want every election to be important, but I will acknowledge some of them feel more central to who we are or feel like they're higher stakes. And this is one. So we're expecting that a lot of you are going to want to vote this year, which is great. I don't think I have to twist too many arms to convince you that democracy is worth participating in. But I do want to try to make sure folks know the importance of voting absentee this year specifically, and just how it works so that it's demystified and you can just do it without having to wonder about any of the details. So I threw together a little presentation so you don't just have to stare at my face the whole time. Give me half a sec to get that up. And then
we'll say we would love to be with you in person. We missed the fair food. We were just talking about the fair food. Oh my word. But
last year we did a popcorn poll for all the candidates in the primary. So we had 1 million mason jars and everyone got to vote with popcorn kernels. And there were 9-year-olds that were giving pity votes to whoever didn't have any. And it was just wonderful.
That's adorable. But we are here today and we're excited to be here. So thank you for letting us into your homes and telling you about absentee voting.
And thank you, Will, for thinking of us. I'm really, like Will said, that MCA looks at collaboration and is a very big, important part of what they do. So do we. Here we go. So this picture is actually from Wisconsin, not Maine. And that is because we did a lot of work for July's primary to not have this happen in Maine. But when you're doing in-person voting under COVID, fewer people can vote at a time. There's just limits on how many people are allowed to be in a room at the same time because it's not safe. Lines are long because fewer people can vote at a time, but then they look very long because those people are standing farther apart. And that's a problem both because it looks like a barrier and because in Maine in November, that is a barrier. We can't, there's a lot of folks who can't stand in a line outside in Maine in November for a significant amount of time. And then the health risk. And a lot of folks feel personally pretty safe. Like they feel like if they can go to this grocery store, if they can go to town hall, then they can go vote at the polls, particularly because they know things are being wiped down and distances are being mandated. And they know that people are going to be wearing masks and all those precautions are being taken. That's true. So if as a voter, you're comfortable going to the polls, that's cool. And those polls will still be open. Maine is committed to that. However, the poll workers who have to be there all day, and even if they're behind plexiglass, even if they're wearing protective equipment, they're there for hours interacting with many, many voters, and their risk is a lot higher than that of any one voter. So we're asking folks, even if you feel personally okay with going to vote in person, that's cool. If it's possible for you to vote absentee, vote early, that will cut down on the risk for people who are poll workers. One of the biggest arguments is just, this is about protecting your fellow people, not just yourself.
And Evan, I'll just add, MCA works, one of the things we're thinking about is resiliency and climate change. Resilient election systems are systems in which, we don't know what's going to happen 2 weeks from now. We certainly don't know what's going to happen 2 months from now. Requesting your absentee ballot allows you options. It allows you, if things, are totally fine on election day, take that option. That's a great way, but if we have, absentee voting, you can drop your ballot off in person. You are assured that you can participate in the election. And that's what we're looking for here.
Yeah, that's actually a really great angle. Requesting your absentee ballot doesn't lose you anything.
Yes.
In theory, I mean, we would like it if people didn't intentionally make extra work for our town employees. But in general, if you request your absentee ballot and get it and then prefer to vote in person, that is a thing you can do. I gotta say, I make personally a pretty strong pitch for voting in person. I like it. I actively love going to the polls. I love standing with my neighbors. I love feeling like a good person because I'm doing my civic duty. I'm voting absentee this year because I really, really want to help make our election go more smoothly. Our towns are not set up to have thousands of people come through their polling places in a timely manner, 20 at a time. So that's the concept. How absentee voting works in Maine, and some of you probably know this, about 30% of Maine normally votes absentee, more now. No excuse is needed here. You don't have to have a piece of paper from a doctor saying you can't go to a polling place or that you'll be out of town or anything like that. Any registered voter can vote absentee. And you can request your ballot. There's an online form you can request by mail, or you can request in person at your town hall. Up until, in this case, the end of October, the Friday before Election Day. Now, obviously, if you're requesting that it be mailed to you, you're gonna need to do it sooner than that. But you can go in person and ask for an absentee ballot on the Friday before Election Day. If you request it now, which you can do, they won't be sent out until early October. So they basically send it out a month before the election, and you can return it at any point from then on. And then the piece that a lot of folks are worried about right now because of all the conversation about the Postal Service, there are lots of ways to return your ballot. It's not, mail is one of your choices. It is not your only choice. There's also lots of ways to get your ballot. When you put in your request, you can say whether you want it mailed to you or whether you want a friend or family member to pick it up or whether you want to pick it up yourself. In general, it has to be you or an immediate family member, or you have to go through a few separate hoops. But that's how it works. You can say, I want to come pick it up myself. You can go in and hand it in yourself. You can mail it in. There's a lot of different ways to make sure it gets back. We call them all absentee voting in Maine. We don't call it early voting, although from a sort of functional perspective, it's early voting. You can go in, request your absentee ballot, and give it back all in one trip, effectively voting early. So,
Evan, I'll just add that I was on the phone with another league person the other day with some clerks, and we asked, what's a message that we can really give? And they said, request your ballot online. It makes their life so much easier. They don't have, there's a lot of people who are worried right now. There's a lot of people calling clerks for a lot of different reasons. Requesting online, you will get a confirmation email. You'll have that proof of record, and it'll make your life easier, and it'll make your town officials' life a lot easier. They've got a tough 2 months ahead of them. So
yeah, a ton of things in Maine. The answer tends to be call your town clerk, because every town handles their own elections and sometimes they handle them differently and the hours they're open are different. So Will is right, they're all getting a ton of calls. And if you can avoid becoming one of those people, that's great. I didn't throw the link to the absentee ballot request in here because I am assuming all of you can Google State of Maine absentee ballot request or go to our website, lwvme.org/absentee. It's pretty easy to find, and the link itself is long and ugly, but it's available through the State of Maine Secretary of State's website that you can request online.
And if you haven't received your ballot by October 15th, email Evan or myself. Like, that's something we want to know about. We're thinking of October 15th as a really good, a demarcation line.
Absolutely. If you haven't gotten it, like that happened for the primary, there's some folks whose ballots didn't make it for whatever reason. Absolutely call your clerk and ask, but definitely getting in touch with the league or with Will, whoever you know who does democracy work. We want to know when the systems aren't working so that we can do some things to try to fix them or address that.
Yep.
I have some answers to common questions, and Will might have more questions to toss up, but I mentioned already that this is not just vote by mail. In-person absentee voting is just a fancy way of saying any time until the Friday before Election Day that your town hall is open, you can go in, make your request, fill out your ballot, and give it back all at once. And while this is still an in-person contact, which some people are trying to avoid for a lot of reasons, it's not likely to be crowded. And your town hall, so you'll probably really only be talking with a clerk, and they will be taking standard precautions. So for a lot of people, this is a pretty good choice. For the clerks, they're basically saying the earlier you can do this, the better, because there's less stuff for them to do in those last couple weeks before election day. You can also have it mailed to you or pick it up and then drop it off at town hall, like fill it all out, seal it up, sign the envelope, and then give it to your town clerk. You can have a family member do that as well. Again, if you need a third party to help you with that, get in touch with someone, with us basically, and we'll help you problem solve that, because you need witnesses. There's some things in place to try to make sure that the vote is protected, that nobody is stealing your vote. But as long as it's an immediate family member or yourself, you can just walk in and hand over your sealed ballot. And then some towns, although not all, will have secure drop boxes outside of town hall. They did this for July. Some of them will be doing it for November, hopefully quite a few, so that you can just drive up and drop off your ballot and not have to go inside.
Great
so those
option.
are, that's the option we love. A lot of towns are doing it. The towns that aren't mostly want to. There's occasionally some practical reasons why that's hard for them.
I say those boxes are sold out now across the country, so it's becoming a procurement issue. Yeah.
Everyone needs to do this is the problem. Some towns have been repurposing mailboxes or their town office mail slot, which is not necessarily the best practice in the world for this, but people are trying pretty hard to make sure everyone can bring their ballot back without taking any unnecessary risks. Another one, especially for folks who have ever lived in other states, you need to request your absentee ballot for every election. Even if you voted absentee in the past, Maine doesn't maintain a permanent absentee list. So you don't call once and then from then on they mail you a ballot every election. So that's a piece where we don't want anybody who thinks that they've already done this to be overlooked and therefore end up losing their access to absentee voting. And then I mentioned before, it's kind of 30% of Maine or so tends to vote absentee in general. But this July for the primary, it was over 50%. And we are all hoping to be above that for November. We would really like as much of Maine as possible to take advantage of our existing absentee law. None of this is new. This is the way we have been doing elections for a while now. So as long as people sort of take advantage of the systems that are already in place, we will have a pretty good chance of getting that number high enough that, again, the strain on the poll workers and the polling stations on election day will go down. Did you have any other questions you can think of, Will, that folks usually have?
Well, I guess I'm perhaps asking, it's more of a comment, which is in Maine, your ballot needs to be received as of now by 8 p.m. on election night. So if you send it the day before, you send it the Friday before, and it doesn't get there in time, your vote is not going to be counted. And one of the things we're really trying to articulate to voters is it's the Tuesday before the election. It's 1 week out. It's 2 weeks out. Use that option of the secure drop box if it's available. You will be assured that your vote will count. You don't have to worry about the United States Postal Service. What we are hearing, though, is that by October 2nd, ballot tracking will be available in the state of Maine. That's something we're really excited about, which is, you'll be able to see where your ballot is. Did your ballot make it? It'll give you a little bit more confidence, but with that 8 p.m. cutoff, we want to make sure everybody's vote is counted. And in 2018, 486 Mainers were disenfranchised because their ballot didn't make it in time. And we just don't have that happen to you. If there's any feeling maybe it's not going to make it, take that drive to town hall and drop it off in person.
Absolutely. We just did a webinar yesterday with some Postal Service people, and it's both reassuring in the sense that specific to Maine, they don't think that this is going to be as big a challenge as people are fearing. And at the same time, they're worried that if there are any more changes that lose them any more capacity, that could change. So Will's right. It needs to be there by Tuesday evening. If you're a little worried that the mail won't get there in time, then bring it in person. And in the past, ballot tracking meant calling your town clerk and asking them to tell you whether or not your ballot had made it in, which is incredibly labor intensive, again, for the town clerks. So I'm really glad that we're going to have a system where folks can keep track of it on their own. But thank you.
For us, it comes down to resiliency. It's, resilient systems are redundant systems, and we want to make sure that, every voter in Maine has the opportunity to cast a ballot this November.
We're just going to keep saying that, aren't we? But we
over
really mean
and
it.
over again.
We
Yes.
absolutely mean it. That is the idea behind everything that I'm doing, everything that Will is doing, is that if everybody is able to participate in democracy, if we can make our systems more fair, then we as a society are going to make better choices overall. That's the underpinnings of it all. So when we say we want to make sure everyone has access to this, we want this election to go well so everyone can vote for more than one reason. And one of them is just, we need our electoral system to be able to handle things like pandemics and for our democracy to still function and not to end up with people disenfranchised because they can't stand in line or because they are worried that they'll get sick. We need those things to be true. So this pandemic is giving us an opportunity to look at our systems and figure out where they already were not resilient enough. Will and I both are part of a coalition of organizations that are trying pretty hard to figure out what that could look like moving forward. So for right now, what it mostly means is we're asking the governor for various little tweaks, and then we're encouraging Mainers to vote early as much as they possibly can. Those are two really big important parts for getting through to November. Moving forward after that, we're definitely looking at ways to try to make our electoral system work better for more people. That's the plain language version of what we're doing.
Evan, I heard you have an amazing video to show us. Is that true?
I was about to say, if folks, I hope folks want to see. Normally I'm talking to real people instead of a recording, and I'm like, hey, everyone want to see a video? And then they go, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
I do. We actually put this together for July. So it says, hopefully by now you've already received your absentee ballot at the start. If you haven't requested it yet, take that as an incentive to go ahead and do so. But this is just a little video to demystify the process.
Hopefully by now you've requested your absentee ballot. It's arrived in the mail and you're ready to fill it out. Don't worry, this is not confetti. This is just to protect the privacy of the address. So let's talk about how to complete your ballot. Your ballot may come with instructions that are specific to your town.
Oh no.
This could be interesting. So sorry, folks.
Love the music.
Thank you. We're going to give this a minute and see if.
I'll also just add, for those that are thinking of a way, what's a tangible thing you can do? We're really looking for people to pledge to request an absentee ballot. So if you go to protectmaine.org, that's a great place to take the absentee pledge. And again, the league, you can go to the league's website as well, and make sure you're pledging somewhere. That's a really great step. And then request your absentee ballot. That way we know that you're taking that step too.
Thank you, Will. And thanks for everyone being patient. I always find it really fascinating that in the digitally connected world that we're in, no matter how often we do this, there are still constantly little hiccups. Let's see if YouTube decides to be a little bit friendlier here.
The clerk did not provide instructions at all. You'll need something to fill in those bubbles on the ballot. What looks like a good choice? A black pen? Perfect. Or a blue pen. Technically, the ballot is for your eyes only, so beware of anyone trying to take a peek. Double check to make sure you've received all the correct ballots. If you've received an incorrect one, you'll need to contact your town clerk. The first thing you should do before even filling out a ballot is to sign your name. It's on the back of the return envelope. All Maine voters will have the chance to vote on questions 1 and 2. If you need help deciding whether to vote yes or no, check out Vote 411 for a nonpartisan guide. Use your pen to fill in the bubbles as you normally would. Mainers will also vote using ranked choice voting in the Senate and House races. It's easy. Simply rate the candidates in order of your preference. If you are totally certain of your top choice, you don't have to vote for a second or third choice. Ranking your choices is optional. Here's a sample ballot using ranked choice voting. This is just an example of how to fill in the bubbles. If someone helped you fill out your ballot, they will also need to sign the back of the envelope. Place all of your ballots into the return envelope. Then you'll apply postage, seal it, and mail it off. You can also return it directly to your town clerk. Don't forget that stamp. Ballots must be received by 8 p.m. on Election Day. Don't be late. For more information, visit our website, Have questions? Get in touch with us. We're here to help.
So as I said before, we made that for the primary, so a little bit of it is no longer accurate. We'll update it for this November, but a lot of it, that's still pretty much exactly, that's what absentee voting will look like. You'll get an envelope with a bunch of ballots in it because you'll have the statewide one, your municipal one, so there's generally a lot of different stuff going on that we're all voting on. You may or may not receive instructions. You may or may not receive anything telling you how much postage to use. Do your best with postage. The post office will deliver your ballot. So if you're not entirely certain you've got the right amount, it will still be okay. We checked. But that's the basic idea around absentee voting. What do you think, Will?
I'm excited. I requested my absentee ballot. I think one of the things I'm really grateful for is the Secretary of State added a field in the request to put your phone number and your email address. That way, if you didn't follow the directions in the video and you didn't sign the back of your envelope, just a reminder, sign the back of your envelope first. You know, you will hopefully get a call from the clerk saying, Evan, didn't sign the back of your envelope. We need something. Or Evan, the signature doesn't look right. You know, that ability to cure an error is huge. And the more information you can give on that electronic ballot request is really going to be helpful for everybody in the long run.
All of our staff at our organizations all requested an absentee ballot on the first day the form was available, which I just thought was amusing, but also, I mean, we believe in what we're doing and what we're telling you. The reason we're going on about the signature is that the primary reason, the #1 reason ballots are rejected is because people forget to sign the envelope. So we want the clerk to be able to call you and say, hey, can you wander down here and sign your ballot so we can count it? Because we can't unless you do. It's part, again, of our election security in Maine. It's the reason why our absentee voting process is safe, is just there are a lot of steps to go through. That signature is checked against the one on your voter registration card so that they know that you're you. 1 year, while living in Washington, which votes by mail, I kind of changed my signature mid-year. And then my ballot got rejected and I had to call them and explain and then send in a new signature. And it's that same kind of process of making sure that the person who's voting is in fact the person who filled out this ballot.
So don't get artistic or creative with your signature. That's not the time to develop the new one. Think of that new heart over the I or the new loop in the L.
Or in my case, just get a lot squigglier because you're really tired of signing your name and then have them say, no, we don't think this is you.
That's not you.
So
yeah.
Those are the little details. In general, it's a whole lot like voting in person, except no standing in line. And I know people regret the lack of sticker. That's often one of the things people say is they want to go in person and get a sticker. If you drop off your ballot in person, you can ask your town clerk for a sticker. They might have them. They frequently do.
Evan, thank you so much for joining. I hope everybody's having a great Common Ground Fair, and make a plan to vote. Talk to your friends and your family and your neighbors and everybody you know. Ask them what their plan for voting is, and make sure they request that absentee ballot early. That's important. So
one piece where we get to just all do our part to keep democracy working. And I personally always like knowing about something I can do, especially if it's pretty straightforward. Like this one, you get to be part of a solution and it makes your life a little bit easier. Thanks, Will, for inviting me to come hang out with you today and give this little talk. And I hope
always a pleasure.
I missed the Common Ground Fair. I hope next year I get to be there again.
Same. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye-bye.